So I've had a few people ask me about how I do the photograms on fabric for doing quilts or incorporating it into garments, and I decided I would make a quick video that shows how to do that. So I have everything I need. This is going to be in a few parts because there's like exposure time between parts that you don't necessarily need to watch the whole thing. There's nothing to see. And it kind of bounces around the dark room. So I'm going to film each part separately and see if I can patch them together. So I'm down here in my dark room. I have a space that I've set up for doing like regular film photography, but a lot of it is really I kind of set it up to do this. So you probably won't have a setup like this in your home, and I'll try to explain what you can do that's not too burdensome, in a different setting. So our materials here, I have Solar Fast. This is probably going to be backwards because I'm using the front-facing camera, so I apologize for that, but it's a product called Solar Fast. It's made by Jacquard, and that's Jacquard, and they make all sorts of different like textile stuff. They make different fabric paints and fabric dyes, and their paints can be used on things other than fabric also. So this is a UV sensitive vat dye. So a vat dye is a special kind of dye that usually, like indigo is a vat dye, and usually it's an oxidation process that sets it into the fabric. With this dye, when you expose it to UV light, it clings to the fabric. It's a chemical reaction. So so that is what allows us to print our image. So I have this. I get this from a place called Jerry's Artarama. You can order it online, but other places have it also. If you go to Dharma Trading, they have it. It's not all too hard to find. This is a product called Synthropol. This comes from Dharma Trading. This is just like a professional grade laundry detergent. I like to pre-wash the fabric in that, mostly to make sure any sort of like binding, or not binding, any sort of like binders or sizing or any kind of finish or whatever that might be left in the fabric. I want to make sure I remove that so that there's no compound interfering with my dye. And then this is Solar Fast Wash. It's another detergent that they recommend using with Solar Fast. So you can use the Synthropol for this also, but I do like to use the Solar Fast Wash just to be safe. You're going to see I mix it up in one of these little deli containers. It's nice because it has a lid that I can put on it if I have leftovers. I can use it another time. So, and then I have my fabric here. This is just plain old white quilting cotton. Today I'm doing kind of small 4.5-inch squares, but you can do a big piece and then cut it up afterwards. I kind of like doing individual pieces so I can center my object, just the way I want it to present. So first I start by mixing the Solar Fast 1-to-1 with water. You don't have to do that, but you get more mileage out of it, and the manufacturer says that you won't notice any decrease in color saturation if you do up to 1-to-1. So I usually do that just from an economy perspective. So we'll start with, I don't know how much I'll need, but we'll start with 2 ounces of the Solar Fast, and then 2 ounces of water. I use tap water because I'm on a well and there's no like chlorine or anything like that in my water. If I was on city water, I might use either distilled or bottled water or something like that. I just kind of mix this up to get any remaining dye. The dye's kind of thick, so that just kind of washes that off the sides. And then you want to stir this up pretty well. One thing that's tricky is that many of the Solar Fast colors, I'm just using a traditional blue here, they don't, the dye is pretty transparent until you do the whole UV thing, so it can be kind of hard to see where you've applied it. You can see where the fabric gets wet, and that's not too hard on the white. Mostly you want to use white fabric anyway, because with darker fabric, you're not going to get the same kind of contrast, and the color will be different. Alright, so I have my Solar Fast solution I'm working on I just have like a piece of clear acrylic, like plexiglass on top of this piece of particle board here. I just do that because then I don't have to worry about like brushing over it. I can just wipe it off, you know. I'm gonna give it a quick clean here now. So, first step is coating the fabric. Super simple. I usually just brush it on. You can use an airbrush, and I've tried that before. It's kind of hit or miss for the effect that I was looking for. But I just have an inexpensive, synthetic bristle brush here. I don't think it has to be synthetic bristle, it's just circumstantial. And you can see I'm just... Here, let me see if I can bring this in a little more. The way I'm sitting here is blocking the light, so that's not great, but you can see I'm just brushing this onto the fabric. I've tried pre-wetting the fabric or like throwing the fabric in the dryer with a wet rag just to try to humidify it a little bit. That doesn't really seem to matter. It seems like the fabric absorbs the dye pretty well just going from dry. So you can see there, this one's all done. You really just want to brush it, and kind of saturate the fabric. Make sure you don't like flip it over to the opposite side because you'll get a wonky print. You want the side that you brush the chemical onto up. And then I just set this aside. I do a bunch of them, enough that will fit under my UV light. And then I expose them all at once. And while I'm waiting for those to expose, I'll coat the next batch. So I'm going to coat some of this fabric. And when I come back, we're going to see what the UV setup looks like and how to compose your image.